Okay, great. All right. Um,
Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I see some people popping in here. As we have been doing, we are recording this to share online, and we're seeing a lot of shares after the fact. So I think that these have been going awesome, and I look forward to posting this one on the YouTube channel and seeing the traction it gets there. But I want to introduce very quickly Spocker and also Tiggs. Both of their contact information is in the chat. If anybody has any questions, they can share those in the Q&A, but you are muted so that we can focus on the conversation between Spocker and Tiggs and the information that Spocker has to share. But as I was mentioning, the Q&A function is where you can feed some questions in, and I'd be happy to give those to them either during the presentation, depending on how pertinent they are to the information currently being presented, or otherwise we will hold them for the end. So with that, I'll let you all take it away.
Great. Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for being here. As mentioned, I'm Shalyn Spocker, and I'm a longtime league member. But for today's purposes, I'm also Sarah Giffro. I'm the owner and creative director of Upswept Creative. And we are focused on solving problems for established businesses with strategic website design and social media. And in short, we've done this class once before at the pretty early in the span of the duration, as I'm calling it. And basically I created this class with the hope of helping to empower people who do hands-on services, so you can share your knowledge and still get paid. But there are definitely some concepts here that can transfer into other industries too. So hopefully you'll get something out of this no matter what. All right, let's dive on in. And everyone can see the slides right now?
Yep, I can see them.
Fantastic. All right, so as we all are very aware, we are in a unique time where there is no touching. So we don't have the ability to use hands-on skills in our work with other people, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you don't still have something to offer. So we're going to be touching on how do we come up with something to offer in the first place, what technologies do we need to sell and promote it, and also a couple of tactics on how we can keep building on that in the long term, because having diverse income streams is pretty dope in my opinion.
I agree.
Great. All right. So touching on things that we can potentially offer. So doing your job usually requires some expert knowledge, right? Like we all go through training. Some of us have to go through outside education in order to do our work. Like you have also practiced skills in your day-to-day, and you've gained a lot of knowledge. Like you're probably way better at what you do now than you were on day 1 or day 10 or whatever. And so you know things that the average person would never think about. And you also learned what to look for in each client that you work with, and you learned what questions to ask. So, you know, if someone comes to me and says, my website isn't working right, then I actually am going to know what to ask them, like what browser are they using, or what device are they using, or what is the site even doing that they weren't expecting? Like I know what to ask to help them drill down to what the problem actually is, even if I can't physically build a website for them right now, because that takes time. But that's the big key here, is what knowledge do you have that you can share with other people? So yeah, really be thinking about the training that you did to prepare for your work or be certified in your industry. Also consider the things that you are most frequently asked about. I feel like there are usually a handful of questions that always seem to come up over and over again, and that's a useful cue as far as what people maybe don't understand about what you do, and that's a gap you can fill. That's something that you can educate them on. And there's also common mistakes that you may be correcting people on, even just in your day-to-day life, like I've mentioned the St. Ives apricot scrub because I know Tiggs has beef with that, and it's real bad for your face. Don't use it. that's a good example of something that the average person isn't going to know, but somebody who knows things about skincare would know that. So yeah, if you have anything you'd like to share that you think you're good at, that you could possibly share with an audience, you can share that with us in the chat. So I will keep moving along in the meantime.
Can I hook on real quick?
Yeah, totally.
I just want to say, I think it's really important for people to remember that their knowledge is valuable. And just because it seems like something that's really common to you, like you were saying, doesn't mean that you shouldn't be compensated for that time that you take to answer that question or, help somebody with that problem. It's not, if somebody's asking you, it's because they know you're an expert in it, and it's not something that is so common that, they could just Google the answer. So this person coming to you to ask you to spend your time with them to help them through whatever it is that they're looking for help on, that's really valuable. And I know that a lot of people have a really difficult time asking people to compensate them for things like that. But I think in pandemic times, it's not something that you should be ashamed of asking for compensation for.
Yeah, absolutely. There's also a saying that's been going around and on the internets that basically amounts to if you have gone through years of training and gained years of experience to be able to do something in like 5 minutes or 30 minutes or some absurdly short amount of time, and you're asking to be billed for that, it's not that you are asking them to pay you for that small handful of minutes, is that they are paying you for the years and years of expertise that got you to that point where you could answer a question in 5 minutes.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, great. So if you are still feeling kind of stuck on ideas as you think about things that you know about, another way that you can generate ideas is to simply ask people. If you have an existing client base, or even if there are people who maybe they aren't your customers yet, but they might be interested in what you have to offer, you can choose a few people who you think fit the profile of someone you'd like to serve and help, and yeah, you can just check in on them, ask them how they're doing and how you can help them during this time, since they can't come physically see you right now. I know one example that I've thought of over and over is that I've been kind of working out a shoulder injury the past several weeks, and I've thought like multiple times, like, man, I wish I could just get on a video call with my massage therapist and have her show me some rolling techniques or something to like relieve some of this muscle tension and angriness in my shoulder. Like, yeah, or even just have them do like a visual evaluation or something. So you do have to get a little creative. It's like some of these things like might sound a little unusual to do them in the online space, but ultimately they do come to you during normal times because they have a problem and they know you can solve it. So yeah, think about what you can solve for them right now. You can also ask them if there are any new issues that have shown up since they started having to quarantine, because this has brought on some pretty dramatic lifestyle shifts for a lot of people, and that definitely affects your body, affects your mental health, your needs and capabilities. So that there may be things in there that you can help them address as well. And I think the really key thing when you have these kinds of conversations is to really listen to what people are saying. I know that's a huge part of what drives our strategy in the online marketing space at Upswept, is just listening to our clients and listening to what they need. And we are listening for that problem that we can solve for them, and we're listening to why it's important to them. And And yeah, I think you can even expand that out and sort of have that kind of curious listening approach throughout your life when you feel like you have the energy. Like some of my best ideas have come to me during conversations where I like totally didn't expect them to come up, or just random inputs from like TV or the internet or whatever. This connected certain neurons in my brain. I'm like, that's a terrific idea. I'm going to do that. So you don't know exactly when these ideas are going to show up, but you can listen with thought and intention, and you can gain a lot of insight and get some new ideas from that as far as how you can share your expertise with the world.
I also think it's really important to think about moving your business online right now anyway, if it's a service-based business, just based on the fact that, so anybody who's listening or watching or doesn't know what I do, I'm a licensed esthetician in the state of Oregon and the state of Washington, and I work at a waxing salon. But I've obviously been furloughed from work. My salon is not open, and we won't be open for the foreseeable future. So I've gotten really creative in this time, and I have been doing virtual skincare consult and makeup lessons online. And so one of the things that I do is I take a lot of feedback from the people that I work with. And I take a lot of feedback even from my friends, just like, hey, what do you think about this? And a lot of people are kind of like, well, what are we going to do now, especially in the beauty industry? Because, most of us have to be face-to-face with our clients. But one of the things I've seen people talk about a lot is like bang trims, for example, teaching your clients how to do a bang trim online or virtually, doing like a Zoom call to walk your client through how to do a bang trim. Because the amount of time and energy and PPE and things that's going to take for somebody to get their bangs trimmed in the future is just going to be exorbitant and not worth it. I mean, obviously, when you go see your hairstylist, it's worth it for them, because whenever you go see a personal care service person, I don't know what to call us right now. It's like a personal experience. We're part of each other's lives, but because there's so much involved in cleaning up after you perform a service, including disinfecting, sterilizing, PPE, changing your clothes. Like if I were doing hair, I would think about bang trims virtually, or, like I'm doing makeup consults virtually. So I think it's really important to sort of just think about how you can bring your business online and know that people will come to you because they were already coming to you to begin with.
Yeah.
That brings up a really good point. I mean, I haven't considered how I could possibly do anything to monetize my Airbnb right now, right? I have long-term renters for a year. Instead of usually we rent it out over the summer and we really hustle to make that summer cash and, don't go on vacations with that money. So, but that's not this year, and we're lucky enough to have great renters. But I was thinking, we are kind of experts now at managing an Airbnb seasonally and navigating the laws of Portland. So you've got me thinking.
Yeah. There's a lot that you can put out there that people would be interested to know. Okay. So shifting gears a little bit, we'll get down to the logistics side of things and what you actually need to make all of this happen. There are a lot of options out there for tech solutions, and it's really easy to get lost in the weeds. So if you're not quite sure what to choose, I would say just focus on the essentials to start with. So what you're going to need is a way to receive payments, a way to deliver the goods, whatever they are, and a way to promote it so that you can keep building your audience over time. And oops. All right. So firstly, getting paid. It's important. I love money. You should too. But not capitalism. Anyway, jokes. So yeah, if you, there are a few options. I'm a big fan of using what you have. So I've kind of gone down the line here firstly, if you already have a website with some sort of e-commerce capability available, then yeah, you can set up a product, air quotes, in your shop and receive payment for a virtual service that way. And a lot of the website builder type of sites like Squarespace and Wix will have like e-commerce options that you can add on. There's usually some kind of more premium membership fee attached, but that does exist. So if that's the space where you feel familiar, then that's an easy point of entry. If you don't have e-commerce already, but you do have a website, you could just as easily keep it really simple and integrate like a PayPal or a Stripe button or a Square button. Square is known to have like really good website integration, so that's also something to look into. And if you don't have a website, there are services that will basically set up that online storefront for you. Again, you can create a page with Square to sell gift cards or receive service payments online. And you can also, if you have an online scheduling platform, I know that those are a big deal for service providers. You can check to see if it has some kind of system to accept online payments already built in, because a lot of times they do. And worst case scenario, if you don't have a website and you don't want to tangle with that, you can always accept payments directly. There's Venmo, there's Cash App, there's PayPal, there's a bunch of different options. So I really encourage you to just go with the option that makes you that you're comfortable with to start with. Because I know that time is kind of the essence these days. So whatever is going to feel like, okay, I can get this out there quickly and I'm going to feel good about it, then yeah, just go with that. Okay. And once you have sold a thing to them, you've got to deliver the service somehow, and that's probably going to involve some kind of virtual conferencing or virtual meeting. So there are a few different options for that. I'm sure Google Hangouts is free and it's easy to sign on through your browser. You don't have to download a separate app or anything, which is really nice. And also most people already have like a Google account because of Gmail. So that's something you already have access to. It's right there. So it's an easy point of entry.
There's also no time limit. Like on Zoom, if you don't have a pro account, there's a time limit on these meetings. So I've been in a Google Hangout before for over an hour, where a Zoom, I've been kicked out after like 45 minutes.
Yeah, that's definitely an important point. is Google, it tends to leave things more open. But yeah, speaking of Zoom, that is another option. And yeah, they have had some security issues in case you weren't aware. So that is something to be aware of, but they are working on those. And they do seem to be a good option for larger groups. I believe that they even have like breakout room capabilities. That might be a paid only feature, but yeah, if you're expecting to be teaching classes or anything of that sort where you're having to manage a higher number of users, and then you might want to consider that.
Oh, also Google Hangouts just changed their formatting. So I use Google Hangouts when I schedule my consults. But they just changed their formatting. So when you go in to make a calendar invitation, which is the way that you would probably have the most success in creating a Google Hangout, you can just create the event, and then right there's a little button. I talk with my hands a lot, so you can't see what I'm doing, but there's a little button you can push that says like add Google conferencing or something. But you can add up to 100 people to your Hangout meeting, which is really nice.
Yeah. If you are a Google Calendar user, which I very much am, they do make it really easy to just add that feature on for all of your meetings. So I really love that. As far as other options go, Whereby is another option that'll let you host smaller meetings. I think you can have up to 4 people for free. Also, personal note, I'm just like really into their visual design on their website. Like it doesn't look like every other tech app on the planet. So if you care about that sort of thing, maybe check them out. And worst case, there's always Skype or FaceTime, or like I did a virtual workout through like Facebook Messenger one time. Like there are a lot of options that we have access to. So again, find the option that you are comfortable working with, and that is going to serve you best with whatever limitations that may or may not come with it. Are there any questions at this point that we could address?
Nope, no questions.
Alrighty. All right. So if I'm also, as I mentioned previously, diversifying your income is awesome. So yeah, I also wanted to touch on like other ways that you could potentially generate some income.
Sorry.
Hi, doggos. Okay, so yeah, getting set up with gift cards is also another idea. That's something that they can purchase now to support you and then use later. So that's, you still feel like you're giving them something. Like it's hard enough to ask for money as it is. So yeah, that's still something that feels like a fair exchange for everyone. So Square will let you sell, they will let you both sell and track your gift certificates through their interface. They make it pretty easy to set that up. Any e-commerce website is also going to be suitable for selling gift cards. That's a pretty common thing with most online retailers. So if you already have merch or products available, then you can just add a gift certificate to your shop. Easy peasy. And I think the thing to remember here when you are selling gift certificates or anything of that sort, I know that there are concerns of like, oh, what if I sell all these gift certificates and then I'm playing catch up on the services, or various other concerns. I think it's important to remember that you get to set the boundaries as far as how many of those you sell, how you deliver your services, how you do your job. Like if you have your own business, ultimately you are in charge. So you get to set the terms of, how a gift card gets redeemed, how many, how often, and just figure out your boundaries and make sure that they are communicated clearly up front so that everyone knows what to expect. And for a super lo-fi solution, you just need to make sure that you receive the payment, you send them a proof of purchase, and you keep track of the gift certificates you've sold and when they've been spent. Like, you could just make a spreadsheet. You could write it down on a piece of paper. It doesn't have to be super complicated, but yeah, just keep it organized in the way that makes sense to you. I know there are like crazy bullet journal fans out there, and I'm like a bullet journal baby right now, but I know there are people who are really into that system. So use the systems that work for you. All right. So the other thing that you need to consider is yeah, how are you going to let people know that this is available? So I'm a big fan of using what you have. So if you have an existing client base, reach out to those people directly. They already appreciate your work, and they are people you have already sold to. So you're just going to have an easier time selling to them again. I would also say don't be afraid to be transparent about your situation. I think we all know that things are challenging right now, and it honestly feels a little strange to come at it in a business as usual type of tone. So yeah, be willing to be a little more vulnerable, and because people will want to support you if they can. Like they've been coming to see you for a while. You've probably made some big fans. So yeah, letting them know how they can help you is going to be huge. Additionally, social media, it's a pretty accessible way to reach new people. And you definitely want to choose the right platform for where your audience is. It's more important to focus on the right platforms than to be present on all of them. So yeah, you want to think about where your ideal audience hangs out. Instagram is going to be great for beauty, spa, wellness, that sort of thing. If you got an older audience, like we all know the jokes about your Aunt Betty posting something on Facebook and signing her name. Like, yeah, Facebook is kind of where the older folks are now. So that might be a better option in that case. And if you've got more of a professional services type of bent, or something that's maybe more B2B, as in business to business, then LinkedIn could also be something that works for you. So yeah, think about where your people are and make sure that you show up there, and maybe don't worry so much about the other stuff. And I would also say, again, to use what you have. Even if you have a small following or you haven't posted in a year, you still have that audience available to you. And yeah, there's no better time to start than right now. So yeah, if you haven't posted in a year, then, start posting regularly. It's fine. Nobody's going to judge you.
And if you're kind of like I don't know, for me, Instagram has become pretty important right now. And I although I have a background working in tech, I've had a really difficult time figuring out how social media works. But there are so many resources out there right now that can help you and kind of walk you through what you need to do to be successful on social media. I think since the stay-at-home orders have happened, I've gained probably like 40 followers. And for me, that's kind of a lot because I don't have that many followers to begin with. And I feel like I sort of am kind of talking to the same audience all the time, but just getting comfortable using hashtags and promoting posts every now and then. I've gotten some other people to tune in, and it's also a great networking tool. So if you're able to get on Instagram and follow, people in your industry who you like really look up to or admire their work, reaching out to them is never a bad idea. Most of them are really approachable and have nothing to do right now. And, hearing that their work is appreciated just as you would like to hear that your work is appreciated is always really nice. And you never know what kind of friendships you'll make from that.
Yeah, definitely. One of our favorite hashtags is community, not competition. And
Yes.
Yeah, I feel like so many of the people who really have it dialed in are like, they're not looking at you as like a threat. They're like, no, I would love to help you out, person who is earlier than in their career than I am. It's like,
absolutely. I love tapping people who are further along in their career for just, words of encouragement, advice, just asking them how they do things. And lots of people really want to share what they're doing. They just might not know how to do that. That's why you have so many people posting tutorials on how to do hair color or how to do a makeup look or whatever. People want to share those things. So if you message people directly, you usually will get some helpful information.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and speaking from personal experience, sometimes I'm just like, I'm thinking about, what class do we want to do next? And like, what do people want to know? So, I mean, there's no question too big or small. I was, you know, like we are all like eyeballs deep in our professions, and we don't have that outside view of like what other folks don't understand. So just, yeah, never be afraid to ask a question. I mean, worst case, they maybe won't answer you, whatever. It's the internet.
Right. It's just you putting yourself out there. And I know that that's hard for a lot of people to do, especially right now, but sometimes you just have to.
Mhm. Yeah, very much so. Um, and yeah, and in the vein of things we can put out there, this is also a great time to share information that might be particularly pertinent during this quarantine stage of things. Such as, I mean, self-care has become like a huge deal. Like it already was before, but it's a huge deal now too. Um, and so yeah, people may need that's a good structured advice on, how they can better take care of themselves, take care of their hair, take care of their faces, yeah, take care of all of their business until they're able to come see you again. So yeah, speak to those struggles and yeah, and just keep it real.
I love to approach it from the angle of you're indoors right now. You're probably not going to see anybody. If you have to do meetings with people, you don't have to have your camera on. This is a really great time to experiment with something new. So, like, I have a bunch of people who are trying new skincare things because they have the time, they have the ability to. So, if for some reason they have a breakout, which nobody has yet, they don't have to go and, feel self-conscious about how their skin is looking because they're doing something new. So I think definitely, just coming from the angle of this is a great time to try something new. Let's talk about how we can do this and make it successful for you is really great.
Yeah. Amusing side note, I like literally told my old roommate earlier today that he should feel free to shave his own head, because for that reason that you just said. It's like, if it goes horribly awry, nobody's going to probably see you anyway. So,
Exactly.
it's a good time to experiment. People need ways to have fun.
Yeah.
Okay. So I wanted to make sure and include a few notes about, how we can keep growing and expanding upon this online, your ventures into the online space. As yeah, you may find once you start doing these things, once you get more comfortable with the technologies and get more practice with delivering a service that way, it's like it might end up being a really great option, a really great supplement to your income. Even as things go back to a more normal cadence. So there are some things you can do like pretty much all the time, but especially in these early stages too. Because developing new offerings can feel like a really tall mountain to climb, but it doesn't have to be perfect for you to put it out there. And the main point here is to make sure that you are learning from each interaction that you have, so you can take those learnings forward and make the next one go more smoothly. So my thoughts on doing a debrief with yourself after each client or each project or whatever. I recommend taking at least 24 hours of space away from the interaction to process any feelings that you might have, particularly if things felt like they didn't go as smoothly as you would have liked. Definitely give yourself some time to like sit with that, feel your feelings, and understand where it's all coming from. Because if you do your debrief too soon, then emotional reactions and self-judgment and all kinds of insidious little things can sort of creep in and get in the way of seeing the reality of things. I also like to keep in mind to focus on both what went wrong and what went right. So this is not just an opportunity to be super self-critical and nitpick everything that you could have done better. Like, be looking for things that went smoothly, things that the client responded to, things that maybe you didn't expect that happened, but that you ended up liking. Like, just take notes on all of that so you can make sure to repeat those good things in the future. And again, getting curious is going to serve you in a lot of ways through this process. If something went well or it didn't, ask yourself why that happens, and ask yourself what you can do to avoid it in the future. Just, rather than like pushing it away or avoiding it, just like, think about why it happens and where that came from. And do you have anything to add, Tiggs?
I do. So I have been doing my skincare consults since prior to pandemic. I started doing them when I finished school last fall, mostly because I have so many friends from all over from roller derby, and they wanted to work with me, but I was obviously not going to be able to work on people who live, in the middle of the country. So I actually spent a long time thinking about how I would do these interactions with people, and why basically I wanted to make people understand why they needed to come see me for skincare advice. And so that's sort of how I ended up with my Instagram handle, like IDK my BFF Tiggs. Like, I want people to think of me as like their like beauty BFF, and they can come to me and ask questions, even if they're like really menial. Because every question is a valid question, and I don't think there are any stupid questions. So what I tend to do with folks is I will go through my consult with them after asking a bunch of questions. I make a bunch of recommendations, and then I send out a really long email. And people can feel however they want about an email, but I make sure that I include the most amount of information possible for my clients to come back to if they ever have a question. I try to cover everything, and I'm not going to, and that's okay. But I like to give people, I guess, the agency to kind of like know what they're doing without having to refer back to me often. And while I want a repeat client, and I will have that repeat client because the product that I use is good, I think it makes people feel good knowing that I'm spending that much time writing my email, like follow up to them. And my emails have sort of evolved over time to reflect how they look right now. But it took a while to get there, and, asking myself a lot of questions, like how would I want to have a follow-up from this appointment? And, what information do I feel like is really important, that I would like to have if this were me getting this consult from somebody else? And I ask a lot of questions, almost to a point where it can be obnoxious. Just asking people like, hey, what do you want out of this appointment? Like, one of the questions I ask is, what are your skincare goals? And so like giving people a tangible way to get there is great. Like, it makes them want to keep coming back to you. I always tell people whenever I have consults with them that Rome wasn't built in a day. What we do now might not be what you need to do in a few months. So there's always going to be room to move, room to grow, and room for you to sort of keep having that client there. But yeah, I've had a really great response with the email. People are always really blown away at the fact that I send this lengthy email to them after the fact. So I think that's a good thing to do. Just following up, being really like on top of how things went.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm a big believer in that approach in that goal-oriented approach too, of meeting them where they are at right now and addressing the goals that they have right now, as opposed to maybe following your own ideas for them, or they're trying to solve the problem they have right now, not the problem they had 3 months ago, or the problem they're going to have a year from now. I feel like there's no such thing as too many questions. If you don't have everything you need, then keep asking questions till you get it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always tell folks, like, we might need to revise. That's okay. Just let me know if things are working for you or not. being really upfront and letting people, like, being accessible is really important. I just hit myself in the face with my glasses. That's how you know I'm accessible. I'm a dork.
Team dork.
Yay.
All right. And there are, speaking of follow-ups, yeah, don't forget about those. Yeah, those are definitely, following up is not only a great way to ascertain how things went after the fact, and to check in and yeah, and really show the time and attention that you're putting into what you're giving them. But it's also an opportunity for you to ask for reviews or ask for referrals or testimonials, things that might help you get more business later. So definitely do not neglect the follow-up. A couple of other things that you can consider doing as you get a little more set up in this realm. Online scheduling is just one of my favorite things. My go-to is Calendly for this particular thing, and they'll let you have one online scheduler for free, and it'll also process payments for you at the time of booking if you get a paid account. So it's a pretty neat little app. It can embed it in your website, pretty slick. But more importantly, not only are you giving them an action to take right now, and like, people love getting stuff done. It's like really satisfying. Like, I just bought a thing, click, it's done. Yeah, check that box. But it's also saves you from like just the endless chains of emails about like, oh, I can't do Tuesday. What about Thursday? Oh, I can only do Thursday morning. Like, just all of the back and forth time that you waste on trying to schedule things, like, that'll just be gone. They will be able to see your availability and pick a time that works for them, and it's so much simpler.
Also, I just also want to hook on to that, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Sometimes people will just kind of get lost in the shuffle with what they're doing day to day. So if somebody has corresponded with you and they're interested in working with you, and you don't see something scheduled by them, like within a day or two of them talking to you, just reach out to them and say, hey, just wanted to make sure you were still interested. You know, I would love to put some time on the calendar. Just, I guess, kind of being aggressive, without actually being aggressive, just because people really mean to make these appointments and they just forget. But in the interest in, you know, your financial health, you know, and being able to function right now, you know, following up, I think, is an okay thing to do.
Yeah, definitely. I always have to remind myself that not everyone is checking their email constantly the way somebody who works in the web space like me would do. So,
or somebody
yeah.
who's been involved in roller derby for umpteen million years. Like, we're just constantly conditioned to check our email, right?
Yeah. But yeah, not everyone is like that. And so so checking in with them is always a good idea. And the one other big thing that I would recommend going forward is that if you're doing the kind of virtual service where you're sharing a learning that could be relevant to a wider audience, record the call, kind of like we're doing right now, in fact. And I know this will be online and available to everyone, but I have bought online courses and things where you know, I get into there and there's a video that like was clearly a live class at some point, and they repurposed it as part of this product. And I mean, I'm not mad about it. Like, there's lots of good information in there. So
it's hard to do that too as a business person. You don't need to do the same video multiple times. You can record it and reuse it.
Yeah. I just really, I really strongly recommend to just reuse content in a way that is intelligent, and you know, if you, yeah, even in terms of promoting yourself, if you have like a blog on your website, then you can take some of those ideas into your social media, or maybe, I know that we at Upswept have hosted a couple of classes that have gone on to inspire blog posts. So, I mean, you've already like brought all of those ideas together and presented them. So yeah, just get the most mileage out of it that you can. It's going to serve you well. Okay. And yeah, here's me. Here's the comforting hug of the session. It doesn't have to be perfect. I've already said this once, but yeah, we're all kind of learning to exist in a new space. I know there are probably some of you out there that, you know, don't really even go on the internet very much on a normal day, but now we're in a space where the internet is most of the option we have to do things that we want to do and see people. So yeah, there might be stumbling blocks along the way as you get acclimated to doing more of your business online. And yeah, show yourself some kindness. You're biting off a lot, and it's going to be hard to chew, but that's okay. A lot of people are in that same space. The most important thing is to just get started, try some things out. It might be a little scary, but the rest is going to come as you learn how to interact with those tools and get more comfortable with them. And then, yeah, have faith in the things that you know. You know so much more than you think you do. I know more than I think I do. Like, there are times when, you know, I'm asked a question and then I like go off on this like half hour, you know, like rant about something, and I'm like, oh, I guess I knew some things about that topic. and you know, you may not necessarily be aware of that until you're asked, but you've got a lot of knowledge in your noggin. So trust in that, because you know something that someone else doesn't, and that someone else will need.
That last part is, I think, the most important. I know that, like, we talk about a certain subset of people in this world having like feigned confidence for no reason. And I think that kind of sort of acting in that vein is helpful. We know, like you said, we know a lot of things. We just need to believe in what we know and just be confident in that delivery. It might feel uncomfortable at first because some people need that like face-to-face, like touching or, you know, whatever experience. But if you're really confident in what you know, you can do anything.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
That's so cool.
How can Upswept help people to drill into what things that they can do online? I mean, I think what you said just now about, you know, when you have gone off on a tangent for 30 minutes about some subject, and then you realize, oh, I am pretty good at distilling this down or providing this knowledge. How can Upswept help people to get to the point where they know what they want to provide?
I think in our like ideal client scenario, we tend to work with more established businesses who already kind of know what they're offering. But as you're sort of pivoting into another market, like say, yeah, into an online space, we definitely ask a lot of questions about how, who you want to work for, because there's definitely a particular type of person that is the type of person that you most want to serve, and you know, and you can sort of pick and choose who you work for outside of that. But yeah, there are definitely the people who are going to be the most captivated and the most invested in what you have to offer. We also like to ask just this, you know, what parts of your job you like and what parts of your job you don't. I think what often happens is that we get that maybe we start a business with one idea and then we get kind of pulled in another direction because it's sort of like, oh, this is where the money is. Like, way back in the day, I was a wedding photographer for a few years, and now I'm like absolutely not no weddings. um, and yeah, and there are a lot of reasons for that. But yeah, that's something where it's like, okay, this is clearly not something that you want to do. This is not the type of work that you want. So let's not market for that. Let's if you would rather be taking portraits than shooting weddings, then let's focus you on portraits. Yeah, I feel like I'm rambling a little bit. So so yeah, is there anything that I have missed or that I didn't address? Let me know.
I think that what's valuable for me here is that, like, you're not saying start with making an LLC and a website, which is what people think of when they start to think about putting themselves out there online. And that's not what you've described at all, right? And I think that part is very daunting to people. Oh, I need to spend a month, in this space that I'm already not comfortable or confident in, doing those kind of, traditional steps. Talk a little bit about why you don't recommend people immediately invest in things like that, or do you? What's your thought?
I think as far as like registering a business name and things like that, that's definitely more of a case by case thing. I am not sure of all of the logistics as far as like licensing in the beauty industry, for example, but yeah, as you grow into that space, you probably will have a better idea of how things work as far as like registering a business and getting paid and that sort of thing. But I think a big piece here is that I think with this with the whole stay-at-home situation, I think this is definitely viewed as something that it's something that we need to be able to respond to pretty quickly. And for example, like when we take on a website at a project at Upswept, it takes like 8 to 10 weeks, assuming that there aren't any delays on the client's end or getting feedback or anything like that. So it's a process. It's not a small thing, and it is often not a small investment. So I think it's important to try some new things and yeah, see if you actually like doing it in this format, if you think it is something that you want to continue doing in the future, and if it is something that feels realistically viable to you. I think I mainly wanted to make it feel accessible to get online in some capacity, rather than going with all the bells and whistles like right out of the gate.
I think also, I'm just using myself as an example. I'm currently working with Spocker on my branding because I've sort of pivoted my business. So I came out of school wanting to do one thing, but I've sort of expanded on that now since I'm furthering my education along. So rather than being this one thing, we're working on like my personal brand now, so that anything that I do will just be under this personal brand. And like, there are things that I'm known for, like my glasses and my makeup and my hair, like things that are like noticeable, distinguishable characteristics. So like we can play off of that, but it feels weird for me to look at where I was in October of last year and say, this is definitely what I want to do still, because I don't, and the landscape of my industry is changing. So I think, like, I don't have a registered LLC, and part of that was me procrastinating out of school, but the other part of it was, okay, well, what if I decide to do something else down the line? And I think that all of us are still young enough in our lives to where our businesses can pivot, and we can add additional things to our resumes, we can pick up additional skills. So having the flexibility to not necessarily be tied to one specific thing, I think for me as a person who's never been a business owner before, makes it a little bit more digestible. And in working with Spocker, it's a very like low pressure situation. This is now a Spocker appreciation seminar. But it's a very low pressure situation because, you know, she asks you certain questions and you answer those questions and then voila, there's this thing. I mean, it takes time and creativity, but it gives you, I feel like there's that flexibility to just sort of not have to be tied to this like one LLC for the rest of your life or whatever.
Yeah, as a former small business owner, I can definitely see the merit of that. I remember trying to put together really specific examples of all the things that we would do in our business. And then in the end, after years and years, what I ended up doing was putting together a very simple website that said, we can solve your problems and make shit happen.
Yeah.
And so come to me if you need problems solved or shit to happen. And that turned out to be much more successful than distilling down every single type of thing we would ever possibly do.
And what I know of like what type of businesses you have currently, like that is a legitimate thing. Like I would very much say like that is what you do.
Okay.
Well, thank you both so much for being here. Super appreciated. And I will get this out on YouTube for everybody tomorrow morning. And just really appreciate your time. Please do send me the slideshow so that I can link that as well, Spocker.
Yeah, I will definitely do that. And feel free to reach out with any questions. We've got a contact form on the website. We're on social media, and yeah, we are on the internet a lot. So we're here for you.
Spocker could teach how to sing karaoke. How to really nail it.
I don't have a slide deck for that yet.
You don't have that yet? Okay, I think you can monetize that skill.
We'll see. Commit.
All right. Bye, you all. Have a great evening.
Bye.
All right. You too. Bye-bye.